You're not overwhelmed because your life is hard. You're overwhelmed because you don't know what's actually yours. So you carry everything, other people's expectations, emotions that were never yours to regulate, outcomes you were never assigned to control. Most people would look at your life and say, wow, he's a solid dude. But internally, there's no off switch. And what's dangerous is you've gotten used to it and you call it being a good man. This is where most people get it wrong. They look at the kind of pressure and assume it's burnout or stress or lack of balance. So the default advice sounds clean. Create margin, reduce input, make space for yourself. But you already know something about yourself. Rest doesn't fix this, because the moment you slow down, your mind speeds up. Not because you're broken, but because your system is holding everything open. Unfinished conversations, unspoken expectations, responsibilities that don't have clear edges. This isn't weakness. It's responsibility without precision. Now, here's where it gets real. This type of work, it's not for everyone. It's not for the man who avoids responsibility. It's not for the man who blames everyone else. It's not for the man who refuses to look at himself. That man doesn't need clarity. He needs ownership. And until he takes it, nothing changes. But that's not you. You're the opposite. You take responsibility, and oftentimes quickly. You step in when things feel off. You handle what needs to be handled. You're the one people rely on. And over time, you become the guy who doesn't drop the ball, the guy who figures it out, the guy who carries it, whatever it is. And first, that looks like strength, and it is. But something subtle happens. Responsibility stops being something you do and becomes who you are. And once that happens, you stop filtering. You stop asking, is this actually mine to carry? Because your default answer becomes, if it's in front of me, it's mine. And it looks like this. You walk into a conversation that isn't yours to fix, and you start managing it. You feel tension in the room, and you take responsibility for resolving it. Someone's frustrated, and somehow you feel like it's on you to make it right. No one said it was yours, but you picked it up anyway. We've talked about cognitive load before. Your brain can only handle a certain amount at one time. When that limit gets exceeded, performance drops, not because you're incapable, but because the system is overloaded. But here's the part most people miss. Your brain doesn't decide what's important. It carries what you've told is yours. And over time, you've trained it to treat everything like it matters. Not just your responsibilities, but other people's expectations. Again, their emotions, their outcomes. You don't evaluate it. You take it in and treat it like it's yours. Now your system isn't just overloaded, it's miscalibrated, running at full capacity on things you were never meant to carry. So even when things are handled, your system doesn't register it that way, because you're not just managing what's real, you're holding what's possible, and that keeps you running. And here's the part most people never say out loud. You've trained yourself to be needed, and now you don't know how to operate without it. Being reliable, being strong, being the one who holds things together. There's a quiet reward in that. Respect, trust, dependence. But there's also a cost. Because when your identity is built on being needed, you stop knowing who you are when you're not carrying something. So you keep picking things up, even when you shouldn't, even when no one asks you to, even when it's not yours. And this doesn't just show up in one area. It spreads. You see it in your work, taking out more than your role actually requires. In your relationship, absorbing tension instead of addressing it clearly. In your family, feeling responsible for how everyone feels, not just how you lead. Even in your body, pushing through fatigue instead of actually recovering. From the outside, it looks like discipline, but internally, it feels like pressure without direction. Carrying everything doesn't make you strong. It makes you unclear, and unclear men don't lead well. They just hold more than they should. Worse, it makes you less effective where it actually matters. But most men never make that distinction. So they live in a constant state of over responsibility, and over time starts to cost them, not in obvious ways, not in ways people notice, but in how you carry yourself. Shorter patience, blurred thinking, quicker reactions, more noise, less control. And the worst part of all, you still look like you're doing well, so no one questions it, including you. That is, until something shifts. You start to realize, I'm carrying things I never chose. And once you see that, you don't get to go back. This is where real clarity begins, not with motivation, not with discipline, not with another system, but with a question: where have I overstepped my responsibility? Because clarity isn't about doing less. It's about carrying cleaner. And this is where most men hesitate, because if you stop carrying everything, you're forced to lead it differently. You have to speak more clearly, set better boundaries, let some things fall that you've been holding up. And that's uncomfortable, because now it's not about effort, it's about truth. But here's the reality: you don't get rewarded for carrying everything. You get buried by it. And the man this work helps, he's not trying to escape responsibility. He's trying to carry it correctly. So let's be clear. This isn't a character issue. It's a clarity issue. And you don't need to become someone else. You need to see it differently. What's actually yours and what never was. Because once you see it, you have to make a decision to make. Because once you see it, you have a decision to make. Keep carrying everything or start leading with precision. And that's where this goes next, because clarity doesn't just change how you feel. It changes how you show up in your marriage, in your leadership, in the moments where pressure used to control you. That's where this gets tested, not in theory, but in relationship. That's where most men realize they've been strong, but unclear. If that's starting to land for you, you already know this isn't something you ignore. There's a next step, and the link is below. But if you're ready to stop carrying everything and start leading what's actually yours, that's where we begin.